Alrighty. So I think we're ready to do some work here. So let me just go ahead and make sure that everybody knows that get this final tweet out to make sure any stragglers come on in. All right, so I'll kind of try and explain what my goal is here because I haven't really planned this one out yet. I never really plan these because I don't think that's as interesting. But the last couple days, I had a couple companies email me about KiteTail or about Tester and Laravel team sales. So I do like some discounted licenses for companies that want to buy, seats for 3 or more people on their team. And I always have to do them manually. I basically have to go into this back end area that I have and see if I can get in here without giving away anything. But basically, I go into this back end form area that I have after invoicing people manually and enter their information and how many licenses they bought. And then this goes and automates that whole process of sending them their licenses and all that stuff. So I want to try and get KiteTail basically production ready enough that I can start creating team license products in KiteTail for these companies and sending them to KiteTail to buy their Tester from Laravel team licenses instead of having to do the manual invoicing stuff. So what I kind of want to do is sort of take stock of what's working and what's not working, and what I would feel comfortable having people actually put their credit card information into and buy. So to get that started, I think what I want to do is first just kind of take a peek at this checkout form experience. So I've simplified this a little bit. There used to be like a kind of a form at the bottom for your tax kind of information. So if you're in Canada, I want to charge you sales tax and stuff. I decided to sort of disable that to help me get it launched faster and then kind of add that back shortly after. But it looks like here, if someone tries to pay and they don't have an email, it asks them to fill it out. So we got some required form validation going on there, which seems pretty good. Doesn't seem to check that it's an email. Is there an HTML5 email input? I bet you there is. Checkout form.view. Bunch of people hanging out today. 48 people. So let's get gulp going here too. Refresh 100 times. Yeah, so it's still looking pretty valid. All right, so we got some credit card errors. The one thing I always like to test, the one I'm always the most worried about that I've forgotten, is the hardest situation to test with Stripe is when a card is valid enough to generate a token, but the payment would fail. I think there's one test card number that'll make that happen. And I think it's this one. Sort of deceiving. Attaching this card to a customer succeeds, but attempts to charge the customer fail. I'm not even using customers or anything, but this is the one Stripe test card that will get past Stripe's front-end validation, but fail when you try to charge the card on the server. So you can see it goes through and then it comes back as your card was declined. So that's pretty cool. Good enough for me. So, yeah. Figure out what we got to do here. So let's go ahead and look at like some of the tests for this. If we go ahead and look at my feature purchasing products test. Here's a helper that I use to create a test product. Here's like a factory helper that I use for generating the form parameters for validation tests and stuff. So here's a test purchasing a product but no sales tax. Let's just see how this test works out so far. I'm not using Dusk to automate and test all the different cards. I probably will add a couple of Dusk tests eventually, but for the most part, I just write these tests that like make JSON post requests to saving the checkout stuff. I use a fake implementation of my credit card gateway to get valid test tokens and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it would be a good idea to plug Dusk into a test Stripe account and get a couple sort of smoke tests going too. So all these tests seem to pass, which is good in some ways, but in other ways not so good, because it means that people who purchase from Canada are going to get charged tax, even though the form says that they're not going to. But let's not worry about that right this second. You know what I might do is I might make a little note so that we can not forget. So that's KiteTail TDD. This is something I picked up from Ken Beck. He always has a to-do list going when he's working on new features and stuff. So anytime he's working on something and just something pops into his head that's like, oh, I better not forget to test that situation or cover that, throws in a to-do list so that he always kind of knows. So let's do a note here. So make sure Canadians are not charged tax while the tax table is disabled in the front end. Yeah, sure, SM7B. Same mic Michael Jackson used to record the Thriller album. Pretty classic. Okay, so you can see the way this generally works is it's a pretty long test, but I have a fake credit card gateway, a fake webhook dispatcher, and I pre-program the dispatcher so that whenever you hit this endpoint, it returns this payload. So we create a sample product. We go to that checkout and try and pay for it. So we specify Michael Dorinda's email address here and specify a payment token for Australia. Verify that we did get a response back containing this redirect URL and that the charge was created successfully and that the webhook dispatcher did deliver a webhook containing the purchase ID, the product ID, and any of this other information about stuff. Taxes are basically not being calculated. They are being calculated in a sort of a hard-coded way for Canada only because that's the only situation I care about right away. But I'm not even going to worry about taxes for getting this stuff going yet. So, let's think. I have another branch of, so my Test Terminal course app, which is a cobbler's children have no shoes sort of situation, because I had to write it in like 3 days in the 11th hour, has really bad or no test coverage because it started as a static site that progressively became a web app. But I do have a branch here where we have like an endpoint for handling sales coming from KiteTail. So let's look at the KiteTail sales controller and kind of get an idea of if these things are kind of in sync still. So the first thing that it does is it does a HMAC comparison on this X KiteTail signature header that comes through, which is like the signature of the payload. So we hash the contents of the request with the KiteTail secret, which is specified in my environment file here, just a random string that I generated. So KiteTail and my course both know this secret, and they use that to verify that the payload is signed from an authenticated source. So I go ahead and create a KiteTail sale, and let's go and see what that looks like. I'm worried that I went too far with this branch. So, and deleted code that I now have decided I want to keep kind of like both versions of. Okay, so probably don't want to show a valid GitHub token there. It's short, no one will see. It's fine. So let's just go ahead and remigrate this whole database and see what happens. Mostly interested in what tables remain. Yeah, okay, so this sucks. Went a little bit too far on this branch. I deleted like my purchases table. So I think what we're going to do is what we'll do is we'll work with this branch anyways, and then I will backport this stuff into the other branch where I still have the ability to do direct Stripe sales and KiteTail sales and sort of support them both at the same time. So we'll just try and get this working, or maybe it's already working and we can just work on the backporting part. I don't know. We'll just try and kind of see what's going on. So we got this hooked up to Mailtrap, so that's where I can test my my invoicing emails and stuff like that. So let's check out Mailtrap. Let's get in here. Delete this. Okay, so I have an endpoint set up. Sorry, routes, hooks. I have like another routes file for this. So KiteTail sales. So let's go into this manage view, and we'll set this webhook to be HTTP TDL course.dev/KiteTail sales. I think it was. And the secret key will just be the one that we copy from here. The Atom.php class. So this is a good example of how cobbled together this app was originally. So I had some situations in the app where I wanted to like notify myself if anything went wrong, because I was like really under a tight deadline to get this thing done enough to launch. So there were certain things I was worried about, like what if something happens with Stripe that I wasn't expecting, or certain exceptions and stuff that I wanted to get emails about that I understood instead of necessarily getting Bugsnag emails, because sometimes I don't trust Bugsnag. Sometimes it doesn't actually send me emails because I don't understand how to configure it properly. So this class is literally a class called Atom that has the notifiable trait with my email baked into it with a static function called alert. So anywhere in my code where something goes wrong, I can literally just do Atom alert, something really bad happened. Check the logs. And this will send me an email with that content. Yeah, pretty funny. Okay, so what were we doing? I was trying to configure my webhook stuff for the actual course thing here. So let's create a new SQL Pro window and head in and look at KiteTail, and we'll go to products. So this is pointing at that webhook endpoint now. It has the webhook secret. And so why don't we just see what happens right now when I try to buy it and kind of evaluate where things are at. So I do Atom plus KiteTail at example.com, since it should go to Mailtrap anyways. And push that through. Okay, these are my favorite sort of errors. HTML came back and Vue tried to render it, so we just got the first tag. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the logs for this app. Let's see what we get here. There's a lot of errors in here. 404 not found. Oh, you know why? Because it's actually, if you look here in my route service provider, I have hook routes in a prefixed group. Okay. Adam plus KiteTail at example.com. I just hit 4242 over and over and over and over again every time I try and test anything with Stripe. Happens to just work. Okay, amazing. So we got in. It redirected us to the course thank you page. And now I can sign in with GitHub and stuff. And if we check, I did get my course thank you email thing. Okay, so that is looking pretty good. So let's think about what else needs to be done there. So if I wanted to use this for a team license thing, I might do something like add a product, and I'd call it like test-driven Laravel, like team of 10 or something, right? And if we go over, copy this image here so we have a reference to it. Let's find that in here. Let's copy that image or save that image. Stick that at the top of downloads here. Test-driven Laravel banner. Okay, so we got the team of 10. Add a banner. I think I was doing like times 10 times 0.8, 20% discounts or 25% discount maybe. 1042.50. And for a theme color, I think we can just leave the default. I think it'll look okay. Okay, so let's go open the products here. We do have the team of 10. It's not published, so I do need to get actual publishing working in the app instead of in SQL Pro eventually. So let's pull this up again. All right, so here's the team of 10. Description I should copy from the other one. So I'm trying to think of what I need to do to be able to actually put this into production and have people use it. So one thing that I need to do is make sure that when the webhooks come in, each webhook might possibly be for a different product, right? So if I'm going to have multiple KiteTail products pointed at my course, I might have an individual license. I might have a team of 3, team of 5, team of 10, team of 20, and each one of those is going to have to like do some different work. So let's think about how that might work. I think what we would want is basically some sort of identifier coming in through the webhook. Probably like the product ID. Now I think what I want to do when I get it into production is have some sort of product ID that's not just like the auto incrementing ID. But we'll roll with the auto incrementing ID for now. So in the course here, when we look at the KiteTail sales controller, we do the HMAC verification on the signature. And then here I'm doing KiteTail sale create. And when do I add a license? So license generate for sale. So let's look at the license class here. Okay, so I think if I want to be able to support team licenses, then I need to think about basically having some sort of lookup table to map KiteTail product IDs to like team sizes. So we'll create the sale, but then instead of just creating, however many here, let's go look at my, I wonder where that code is. Orders controller. So here's some gross code that generates multiple licenses right now. Let's just copy it. And then think about it. So I think this is basically going to move there. This has to stay the same, so I need to send a team license activation email with all of the licenses, tag them. Okay, so this request license quantity is not going to be a thing. So, let's think. I wish I was more prepared for this stream. I'm definitely kind of making this one up on the seat of my, by the, whatever you, don't even know this, the phrase. I'm so flustered here. So we want to have some sort of lookup table, right? And then error if we don't have a match for that particular KiteTail product. So if we have something like a helper method in this controller called license quantity, and we just pass through like the KiteTail product ID, I think this should be lowercase. Then based on what we have here, we have this one product that's for a team of 10, and we have one product for a team of 1, right? And right now it's products 1 and 7. So this is sort of clunky because probably this would need to be specified in an environment file so that I can do this separately in each version of the app, like my local one and the production one. But it's sort of weird to specify like an array in a .env file, isn't it? I don't even know if that's doable. So let's think if there's a clean way to do it. I mean, let's just get it hard-coded working here for now and then think about it later. So if we have an array, we'll use array get so we can get like a default nicely here. KiteTail product ID 1. So if the product type isn't found, we'll default to a single license. Seems reasonable. And we're going to have product 1 and product 7 are our two right here. So 1 is going to be a 1 license, and 7 is going to be 10 licenses. Okay, so let's take a look at the payload that KiteTail sends again. Let's clear this log. So a purchase ID and then product ID. So this is the one that we're interested in because that's the one that's going to tell us how many licenses we have, right? One thing I'm curious about is my KiteTail sales table. Does this have like tax stuff or anything? This is sort of gross. So this needs like more columns. So it might actually be in our best interest to move to the master branch and try not to screw anything up. So I'm going to keep this KiteTail sales controller and literally just copy it into an empty Sublime file. And then we're going to reset this branch. Nope, not that one. This one. And we're going to check out master. And we're going to save this KiteTail sales controller. I'll go back to our hooks. So I already have some similar stuff set up for how I do my current PayPal sales. Yeah, I used route bind for some base64 stuff in a stream a while back, but I haven't actually merged that code into this stuff. So, yeah. I mean, one way I thought about doing this was having a different webhook endpoint per product, which is totally doable. But I don't know if that makes it simpler or not. I guess if I have hard-coded types of products, kind of is simpler in some ways. But we'll just do it this way for now. So this is going to point to KiteTail sales controller at store. Okay, so let's think. So this KiteTail sale thing is not going to be what happens anymore. Instead, this is going to look more like the orders controller. So I'm going to want to create a payment. So a payment is basically whatever payment information comes in. So we're going to actually have to remigrate this. I don't have that installed on this branch. Ugh. Delete tables. Okay. I'm surprised it creates purchases and payments. That's some legacy right there. So payments is where we store any of the payment information that comes in. So who bought it? Source is basically saying, did it come from Stripe? Did it come from Gumroad? Did it come from PayPal? I'm going to add another key here for KiteTail. Amount is whatever they paid in cents. The description, I don't even know if I'm using that at all. I think that's what I send to, yeah, that's what I send to Stripe, I guess. Charge ID, which is the Stripe charge ID. In this case, I think we'll use the purchase ID from KiteTail. Country, does KiteTail send us the country? Let's see. Yep. Country, postal code, last four. Does KiteTail send us the last four? It doesn't, but that's nullable, so we don't need that. Okay, so when we create this payment, I'm going to copy this code over. What a nightmare. We're doing it live. So it's not going to be request source anymore. That's going to be KiteTail explicitly. The email is going to be email. The amount is going to be amount. I shouldn't have to filter that through intval, but let's leave it there. This is kind of a cool thing that I made. I'll show you guys this actually. So the Laravel request is macroable, right? So I started playing around with some macroing ideas for doing some sanitization on my request fields. So this is a kind of a gnarly one, but basically what filter does is it accepts a key and then an array of filters. But you can also pass a single filter because collecting a single string is going to return an array. And then we reduce through that, basically applying all those filters. So, yeah, it's kind of neat. So it'll call the intval function for me because, you know, that's a function that can be applied. So we get the value, we use the filter, we return the filter, and that returns like a callable, which we can pass the input into, and it just kind of goes through it over and over again. So that's like a nice way that I can say when the amount comes in, filter that through the intval function. This code existed before the convert empty strings to null middleware showed up in Laravel 5.4. So it's similar to filter, but it just lets me call nullable and pass in a key, and then it applies the nullable filter, which just checks if it's an empty string, it converts it to null. So it's kind of neat, kind of like this chainable approach that lets me manipulate the request fields in a nice way. No harm in doing that, I don't think. We'll get the country, nullable postal code, nullable charge ID. Seems okay. We still have this license quantity thing. So license quantity we're actually going to get now by making a dirty temporary variable. And we'll call this license quantity. And then we have to pass through request product ID, which is the KiteTail product ID. So then when we create this many licenses, we can just say license quantity. Feels like I should have a method on the license class for generating many licenses, because like I have this generate method, or maybe that was only on that one branch. Okay, we'll just get it working, and then we'll think about ways to refactor some stuff. This dispatches a job to go and tag that customer in my email software, so that I can know that that person purchased the course. If there's more than one license, then we send out a team license email. Otherwise, we just send them a regular email. Okay, so this is not going to be sale anymore. That's going to have to be payment notify. Does the word sale appear anywhere else? Oh man, this is I very rarely am working on code without tests, and it makes me like really uncomfortable. I don't know how people do it all the time. So let's go ahead and just try it and just see what ends up in the database. Okay, we got an error. Not unsurprising. URL malformed. That's interesting. Is that the response that came back was malformed, maybe? No, it would be whatever the webhook thing that we were sending it was malformed. Oh, it's not there. Okay. And let's make sure we get the right secret. I'm afraid to scroll too far in case there's important secrets. People could steal all my money from my Stripe account. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, another error. No big deal. Should have deleted this file. Okay, so it looks like the error this time actually came from the other app. Testing webhooks like this is kind of an annoying thing. Syntax error. Unexpected variable on line 31. For some reason, my PHP linter. Oh, semicolon. Yeah, man, we should get some tests going for this. Okay, another one. I'm gonna duplicate this time. Or delete that file, rather. Okay. Client error resulted in a 400 bad request. Okay, so it must not be matching the payload, which is kind of weird because I was pretty sure that we copied that secret over. Let's double check. Let's try again. Man. Okay, so for some reason the HMAC stuff isn't matching. So that's kind of a tricky one to debug, because normally what I would do is I would start like doing DDs and stuff in here and trying to figure out, like, see what I'm looking at. But because it happens in a webhook, I don't really have an opportunity to look. So let's think about what we could do to figure that out. You know what it could be? I bet you I don't even have this config variable set up. I actually, since we switched branches, I can guarantee that's what the problem is. That's satisfying to remember that. Okay, so if we go to config, services, I need to add a KiteTail service here. And we called it just secret. So this is going to be env KiteTail secret, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So we got a lot of error handling. I feel like we got to do a better job of this. Okay. What do you think the odds are that we got a different error this time? Server error 500. That's better. Okay, so let's head down to this log here, run it again. Yeah, Chris Cornell was cool. I wasn't ever like a huge Soundgarden fan or anything, but not because I actually actively disliked them. They were just never one of my favorite bands or anything. But it's a bummer that he's dead for sure. Payment, import. Make sure we get this too. Import all the things to be imported. Let's try again. Sorry, this is probably a more boring stream than normal. Trying to do something actually useful, and turns out to be chaos. Undefined variable license. On line what? 50. Okay, so we gotta get the first license here. Licenses first key. I think that's more like how the orders controller worked too. Now, one thing I want to verify is that we even have this licenses show. No, we don't. Oh no, wait, that's not a view. Yeah, licenses show, routes, web. No, there is no licenses show view. Okay, so let's make a little. Let's GCB KiteTail 2 and make a little work in progress commit here, and go back over to the other KiteTail branch and figure out what we have that we were missing. So in the web thing here, we must have a licenses.show. So what is this doing? View licenses.show. So let's copy this. And check out some gross copy and paste driven development today. Little chaotic, but it's all good. Okay, so we want to add this route where I'd started working on this stuff. It's really a shame that I deleted so much code in the other branch that made it impossible for us to do this stuff. Because that's really what's caused me all this grief, is I overcommitted to having okay, so view licenses show. So let's save that. Wrong app. Resources views. Okay, showed upload.php. And let's just see if that's gonna help us out at all. Okay. Round, however much. Lord knows how many fake Stripe charges have occurred. This is promising. Okay, so now KiteTail has done its job. The problem is there's more code that I had written in another branch that I need to port over. So there's an Invoice Link method that I'm calling down here. Or maybe it's in the template. Was it in the template? Yes, Invoice Link. Let's just amend the existing work in progress commits. Okay, so let's find out what I had done with this Invoice Link method. So it must be this one. Okay. Interesting. License Invoice Link. Ah, okay. So we get the sale. See, now this is weird because now it's depending on code that doesn't exist. But I think I can do it in a similar way. Man, it's really a bummer what I did to myself here. So I think this is actually going to come from the payment now instead of the sale. So let's just refresh this. Okay. So that's looking pretty good. Now, it's a little bit weird because this is a team license, not just a individual license. So it's almost like this screen should be different. So this is just like the page that someone sees after they buy. They can log in right away. But if someone's buying it for their team, this is probably not what we want to display. We probably want to return a different view altogether. So let's go look at the KiteTail sales controller. So it's almost like basically I want to move this up into here and then create a new version of that for here. And then we can look at simplifying that again after the fact. But there's kind of like two discrete paths now for what can happen at the end. So if someone buys more than one license, I don't want to show them licenses.show with licenses first, blah, blah, blah. And if it's just one, then we do. So I think what we want to do here is let's take a look at the database, and I think we can finally work in the context of one app for a little while and think about how to do this nicer. So here's payment 2, which was the last one that we did. Should have 10 licenses, and it does. So let's make a new view that's like a team licenses dot show, and it's kind of tricky actually, because so what I do is I generate these long random strings, and those go in the URL because this is basically a password, right? Like this URL, it has to be secret because this lets you get access to the course now. So if I want to send someone to a page to show them information about the team license stuff, you know what I think I'm going to do actually? Is I'm going to cheat. And we'll go to team licenses dot show, but it won't actually be showing a team license. Let's look at what else we have here. So I think what I want is actually something more like this other page that I have. So I have this page when someone purchases with PayPal, because of the way that things work. It has to all happen asynchronously. So I think I'm going to actually just copy this template and make this a team license sort of template. So we'll have like a marketing page, and we'll just make a silly like team license thank you route or something. So we go to PayPal thank you and save this as team license thank you. Then in theory, anyone can go to this page, but it doesn't matter. And thanks for purchasing Tester and Laravel for your team. You should receive an email shortly containing access links for each team member to sign in with GitHub. They'll automatically be added to the private course repository and taken directly to the course area. And maybe we can change this tweet intent thing. To say just purchased. I'm just going to type this somewhere else and then call URL and code on it. Artisan Tinker. URL and code. Just purchased test-driven Laravel for our team. Just purchased, yeah. URL and code. Is this one of those things that doesn't have an underscore? God. That doesn't seem right. Shouldn't it have a %20 for each one of the spaces? Whatever. I'll just do that this way. Okay. Let's see. Thanks for purchasing tester and Laravel for your team. Should receive an email shortly containing access links for each team member. Okay, so if we hit tweet, just purchase tester and Laravel for our team. Yeah, cool. Seems good enough. Thanks for answering the questions for me in the chat. I haven't really been reading. Struggling through this chaos instead. Okay, let's head back to our controller here. So I'm just going to redirect URL / team license. What was it? Team license / thank you. It's not perfect, but I think it'll be not terrible. So, okay. Let's kind of get a fresh slate going here. Artisan, migrate, refresh. Seed. I was thinking about making a CSS framework one day. We'll see. Yeah. It's a scary thing to maintain, but I think there's room for more out there. People get excited about new CSS frameworks. Okay, so let's migrate this again to migrate fresh. Okay, so we should have a blank slate for both of these databases now. So the course has no customers yet. And KiteTail just has the default products. So let's go ahead and go back to KiteTail, recreate this tester and Laravel team of 10. And upload our banner image, set the price to $1042.50. We'll just leave no description. I'll go and copy it from the other one. Price must be a number. Oh, that's weird. Has anyone ever run into that where it pre-fills the old value with formatted with the comma and then it complains about it? That's sort of depressing, to be honest. I wonder why it's doing that. If I go and look at products, edit, blade, price. Man, it's not even the right page. Product, edit, blade. I must have like a number format thing in there. Price in dollars is including the comma. So this number format thing is basically ruining everything for me. Let's add a to-do. Fix commas showing up in price fields. There's multiple ways to fix that. I'll probably fix it with like a custom validation rule or something. But anyways, for now we'll just delete that before we hit save. Let's add our webhook, http tdl course.dev/hooks/kitetail sales, I think it was. Back to web, route hooks, KiteTail sales. And then get our KiteTail secret. And hopefully not a Stripe secret. Okay. Damn it. I thought we were finally on track to demo that. This will have to be published now. And one other thing I noticed is that this is product ID 6 now. So let's quickly tweak that in our hard-coded list of stuff here. It's always the simplest things in programming that take the most time, like commas in numbers. Okay. Let's close some things. Verify email is empty. We got a blank slate here. No purchases have gone through. No, I've seeded some purchases apparently in KiteTail. That's fine. That's just seed data. Let's start at the top so we can see the newest ones anyways. No payments, no licenses. Let's try and buy this thing. Okay, we got redirected to the team page. Things are looking good. Let's check the email. We got an email with 10 activation links. Each one looks to be unique. This is good. This is promising. If we check the database, the payment came through. The licenses are in here. The payment is here, and it has a charge ID that came back from Stripe. So, it is working, although I am still nervous about the what happens when things go wrong. So that is probably something that I will look at in another stream. So I think what I'd like to do is basically, so the problem right now, right, is if I go ahead and try and pay, and it makes the webhook request back to my course, and my course is like, my code is terrible and I didn't know how to answer this, and it throws a 500. Right now you get a stupid little opening red bracket here, and you're scared that you were charged and you have no idea what's going on, right? Terrifying. What I think I would like to happen is if the webhook fails, I'd like to make sure I'm logging all these webhooks, and then KiteTail will just show some sort of screen that's like a stock thank you screen that says like the seller will be contacting you shortly. So that I think would be the next thing that I would need to do before I actually feel comfortable throwing it online and having people purchase course licenses through it. Regarding how I generate license keys, it's literally stir random. I generate 64 character long random strings that just come out of dev random. That's it. Nothing fancy. Okay, so I think that's probably all I'm going to do for today. Sorry that we didn't get to do as much cool stuff or structured stuff as normal. I'm working on some new test-driven Laravel lessons today, and I'm also having my backyard completely torn up and landscaped. So I was recording new testing lessons up until 2:45. Then I had to go speak with a contractor in the backyard, then rush down here to do the stream. I probably should have just not done a stream, but I'm trying to stick to the schedule. So even if it has to be, making it up as we go and doing something a little bit different than I normally would be, I think I'd still rather do it than skip them. But for next Tuesday, hopefully I'll have something cool for us to look at that'll be a little bit more structured and with some more tests, and we can keep things in the KiteTail arena where everything works nicely and we can run tests and be happy that things are working and everything feels safe and calm, versus this application, which is like nightmare world. So anyways, thanks to everyone for coming and hanging out, and hopefully I'll catch you at the next one. See ya.